Hey, my Web3 fellow citizens, welcome back to the Envelop podcast, where we dive into the state of the art of practices and methods that define how Web3 projects are built, grown, and led, and what they reveal about the current stage of the evolution of decentralized internet. I'm your host, Eugene, aka Crypto MC, and today I'm joined by David Dobrovitsky. He's the CEO of WowDuck.com. He's the marketing arm of CicadaMarketMaking.com and also the key opinion leader of Openverse Network and advisor for FunToken.io. All the links are in the description. David, I'm very proud to be joined by you today. Thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You know, I really love to talk to marketers, Web3 marketers, because they are usually extremely smart person. They do understand how people behave, how different generations. Yeah. And I already wrote a post on the Medium about Gen Z. How do they speak, their terms and their notions? It's extremely interesting. So go check David's Substack and David's Medium. It is absolutely must-have for learners and for builders and market, of course. So David, let's start with this story in Web3. What originally drew you to Web3 and to marketing stage of Web3? And what aspects of this extremely rapidly evolving space continue to excite you or inspire you today?
I came to Web3 for several reasons. The first reason was I was initially working in manufacturing and I had been laid off. I needed a job. So I was looking for anything. And there was a company, there was a marketing company from Belarus that needed somebody. And basically I'm a native English speaker, but I'm also a native Russian speaker. They needed somebody in the English market. So it was a kind of a natural fit. I came in. And I had 10 years of business development experience prior, business development and lead generation. And so because I came with a pretty strong skill set and I had already worked with startups, I had my own ideas, basically my career took off pretty quickly. So I immediately started to do extremely well, again, just based on the fact that I had a skill set, did extremely well, got a few accounts. Eventually, I started to see that there was a need for for startup advisory in Web3. I had some experience working with investor relations, so all of that became kind of like a natural fit. And initially, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be in Web3. It was just a situation where I like technology and I really like startups. I've always liked startups for the fact that they are, they change our lives for the better, ideally speaking. And, blockchain seemed very interesting, like new technology, very hyped up, tons of money flowing through it at the time. And eventually I just grew to like it. I thought, this is kind of cool. It's a way to democratize money. There's a lot of nuances in it. I've always been also drawn to finance. And so it fit my personality extremely well. That's why I'm still there and I'm still here because I like the industry, and later AI was added to it, machine learning was added to it, and I'm very interested with AI. I work with AI all the time when I do various marketing stuff. And so all of this combined is what's really keeping my interest in the industry. It's a cliche, but it is really about the tech for me. I really do like the technology.
Definitely. Looking on you, it's easy to understand that you are a native marketer. You do it very easy. It resonates with you. I know native marketers. There are a few of them, but a native marketer is seen at the moment. And by the way, we have strong connections. I'm also the native Russian speaker, and I have a strong relations with a Belarusian crypto area, I would say, since 2017, when probably you and me joined into the career. So we saw a lot how industry evolved in recent 7 or 8 years. So from your viewpoint as a marketer, how have marketing strategies for Web3 project evolved in this 5 or 7 years, and which approaches are proven effective right now? Which ones do you believe will define the next way of growth? So your current view on the marketing tactics and strategies for now in evolution.
Well, everything has changed completely, and it has less to do with Web3 and it has more to do with how the internet changed. Because between 2015 and 2020, we had a specific epoch of the technology of the internet. And what I'm talking about specifically is you could go online, you could make some nice content, the content could be artistic, and you naturally got followers. That's how the internet worked, right? And that's how we remember it. And around 2021, 22, it started to shift noticeably. The algorithms in all the social media started to become more complicated. The asks became different. And so the way that that reflects in Web3 marketing is before, when you were running an X account, you could have one guy running Telegram, Discord, and Twitter, basically the triptych of Web3 marketing, right? And one guy would create a little poster, good-looking poster that would look kind of like an Instagram post, you know, that nice little look. And he would attach, or she would attach some links to it, write some text, and then you post it. And so when you look at the Twitter feed, right, all that you would see in that account is boom, 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 like an Instagram type of posted posters with various links. And right now that stuff doesn't work anymore because, first of all, the algorithm doesn't really fully like even recommend you for posters. It likes videos more. The algorithms since Elon Musk took over Twitter has really changed. It really so the whole point of Twitter right now is to keep the person on the platform for as long as possible. That is literally the business model. So what does that mean? It means that they prioritize comments and they prioritize likes. If the algorithm sees that people are talking to you, to your post, and there's lots of comments, all of a sudden the algorithm starts to give you more organic reach. But if the algorithm sees that there's absolutely nothing there in terms of action, then the algorithm starts to basically like minimize the reach of the profile. This is one of the many examples. And so now, instead of having a person that just posts stuff once or twice a day on Twitter, you have to have a person constantly interacting with other accounts to pull them to your account. And it's almost like a marketing business development hybrid now, where, for example, I manage my own account. I'm working on my X. And what I do a lot of times is I find smaller accounts than mine, because if you go into bigger accounts, most of the time they don't care about you. So you have to work with smaller accounts than what you have. And I start interacting with them. You give them likes, you put a comment, maybe you follow them, and you try to pull them in your orbit. And when you pull them in your orbit, you start to try to develop a relationship. Comment on the things that they comment on. So ideally speaking, this account posts on things that interest you as well. And so this is an extremely complex, strategic, complex job. It's a full-time job. And so now, all the marketing is complicated because you have to know what you're doing, because it's no longer just copy and paste and push everything out. And then there's also a lot of strategy involved, because we're no longer dealing with a situation where, we're just dealing with Google search. We're dealing with a situation where rapidly AI is becoming the go-to for searching. And so you have to put out comment that AI recognizes as legitimate, right? And that is a very specific content. It's blogs, it reads your Quora, it reads your, just a lot of different things that you're putting out. Specifically, it really likes notable posts in like, let's say, journals and stuff like that are older, and it ranks all of this. And so when you're, as a marketer right now, when you're creating this digital footprint for your company, it doesn't matter if it's Web3 anymore or if it's any company with a digital footprint, you're actively now thinking not just about the SEO, but you're also thinking about the AEO, the artificial engine optimization, thinking that in the next 3 years, the image that you create will be answerable to AI and AI search. Because what does a person do now? Person goes to ChatGPT and says, is Glitter Finance a legitimate project? And ChatGPT says, based on my analysis, this article, Glitter Finance, is potentially a legitimate project. Or it could say, no, it's not. And so as a marketer creating an image, you need to make sure that everything is optimized towards AI, that everything is managed appropriately, and that you're playing with the algorithms and the different social media based on what those algorithms like, because otherwise you're just not going to get any results.
Well, I love the term artificial intelligence optimization. It changes the CEO, of course. So we are in the era of artificial intelligence. How do you learn? Because marketing tactics and strategies change very rapidly. So every day, every month, every quarter, every year, the whole world changes. And Web3, of course, it's one of the fast-moving industry. So what books do you read? What podcasts do you listen? What speakers do you to follow? So how to become a Web3 marketer? How to stay state of the art in the marketing Web3?
So I learned by doing. So I tinker with social media a lot, and I also watch videos of content creators, because my fellow content creators create an amazing material, and I scan that and I get ideas there. I also analyze accounts and what they're posting, and so basically that's kind of like how I do things, and I do by learning. I work with marketers, let's say, who are phenomenal with Twitter. They manage my Twitter. I ask them what they do. I learn from them. I also analyze on LinkedIn, for example. I have a very big following. I analyze the different posts, and also I analyze through different social media, because very often what we're seeing right now is that there's scripts developed, and so you can learn what people are posting and what they're writing, and you can basically copy from them and learn from them. So there's a lot of open source material, but also interacting with others, creating partnerships with others that works extremely well, and learning from others, obviously.
Well, this is a great strategy. Thank you for your advice. So you are CEO of WowDuck Marketing. WowDuck.com, this marketing partner. So you provide marketing services, and I prefer the old-fashioned definition of the marketing is lead generation and sales is lead conversion. That's all stuff. So you generate leads for your services in WowDuck. How do you do that? And how we know that the problem of lead generation is one of the biggest problem. It never disappears in Web3. A lot of projects create something and they are in constant searching for leads. Give us users. I think that there are way more projects than users we have available in Web3 for now for such a stuff. So your view on the problem of lead generation for Web3 projects in general and for WowDuck.com. This is now the sales time WowDuck.
Yeah, I mean, WowDuck is lucky because we're in the marketing arm of Cicada-mm.com, or Cicada Market Maker and Cicada Capital Organization. So we do have leads from other parts of our organization. It's a very big organization. It's present in many conferences, very well respected, very good brand. So we're lucky that way. But obviously, you also want to create your own leads. I have a history of being a lead generator. I was very good at this. I was an inside salesperson, BD, before I came into Web3. The way I would generate leads is usually LinkedIn outreach. But at the same time, as a marketer, you want to create inbound leads. And so the way that you create leads to come to you is you have to create a kind of a wide digital footprint where you create a net of fingerprints where people can follow you, and they follow to the sources that you want them to follow. And so just to give you an example, one of the best ways to do it is to create content. The internet right now rewards content creation above everything else, and smart content creation. And so the way that you do this is you have a post on LinkedIn, and you interact with people on LinkedIn that comment on your posts, therefore creating relationships. You do the same thing and cross post on X, and you interact with accounts on X. You also create posts on Reddit. And in Reddit, you can't market your brand, obviously. You can't mention it. But if you have a very good answer, that becomes something that the Google prizes very much. And so people can come to you through those answers. Same with Quora. So you have to basically create this this kind of diversified digital presence. And, if you do it long enough and if you do it consistently, you start to get inbound leads, basically. But obviously, it also helps tremendously that we're part of a great organization where, people are going to conferences, they're interacting, and there's several other kind of companies connected that are doing other things as well.
Well, so I've learned from your answer that one of the best strategies for lead generation is consistency, doing long enough content, and having a great marketing partner who generates leads for you, like you have. Extremely well, extremely well. So, being an economist, I'm an Austrian economist by my background and my view. I prefer to operate it by the term of time preference, long time, high time preference, and low time preference. We live in a world with a high time preference, unfortunately, and the Web3 sphere, from my point of view, is full of players with a very high time preference. They want to jump, earn, and go away. So we see two forms of so-called short-termism in Web3. First are projects that burn through grants and investments money without building sustainable products. They do not even intend to do this. And users, second, who farm incentives without a genuine interest in the product. Short coming earning. So how can serious long-term builders on long-term communities, people with low time preference in Web3, honest players, so-called honest players, can protect themselves from such behavior from this bad actors categories?
Well, I think that the basics of business never change. You always have to look at the baseline. So the first two things that you analyze is there enough potential users that the project's platform can attract? That's the basic thing. And the second thing is, are there good revenue streams? And as long as there are good revenue streams and the sector in which the project operates can support all of this, that the project will do very well. But if on the other hand, if the project doesn't have that, then it's a good chance that it will be just another token sale, and then you will have exit liquidity and all of that. So I think that it has to be a solid business first. And then if it's a solid business that can support onboarding users and can extract value from that users by giving them value, it's such a basic business stuff. Then in addition, if you create a token, then it can succeed. And the other truth in our industry is that the only major tokens that have succeeded are tokens that have deep liquidity from the very beginning. Like we're talking about tokens that are institutionally supported by VCs. And so, I haven't seen yet in the 6 years I've been in the industry, any minor project, despite how good the intentions are, despite the quality of the professionalism of the team, yet succeed. I mean, from like 2020, 2021, very few projects are still around that are smaller. On the other hand, the bigger institutional projects are doing quite well. For example, the Solanas of the world, there were huge institutional VC supported projects. They're still there. They're still doing extremely well, extraordinarily well. So from that, we can see that a token is great for an institutional project, for a big company, but it may not be a fit for a small startup. And the reason for that is because a token has to have constant upkeep and constant financial, expenditures. And so because of that, you have to be very wary of smaller projects. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I would say definitely business basics, number one. Number two, when you look at a project launching tokens, you have to see who the backers are. And it's a very basic thing. It's not even about quality VCs. It's about, does the project have realistically enough backers in their support system to bail them out in a crisis or stick with them, And so, because we've seen various ecosystems like layer ones not launch like extremely well, especially during the bear market, but because they had the legion of VCs that wanted them to succeed, they're still around and they're actually starting to go up. But if the project doesn't have that, then the project is brittle. And in a crisis, there will be a lack of capital, and that's all it is. That's all it is. So it always comes down to these very basic kind of, you almost want to say banal things, but that's the reality. You have to have muscle behind a product, and the product has to have good basics. And if you analyze it that way, then things become very clear, if that makes sense.
You know, you've delivered extremely well advisors, a lot of capital behind the project. So look on the VCs behind, who invested, who are the backers. That's the great sign of the health of the project, initial health, I would say. Thank you for this advice. Talking about measuring performance, we know that Web3 current state of Web3 landscape is extremely fragmented. Users jump between hundreds of blockchains, dozens of Web2 platforms which try to integrate with Web3 backend. So how do you approach to challenge tracking, analyzing marketing metrics in such a fragmented landscape?
Well, I look at specific metrics. There's some metrics that are actually very, very generalized. For example, it is a truth that, for example, a successful tweet should have 1,000 views. And also a successful post in LinkedIn also has around 1,000 views. So that is a metric that is pretty common. There's also all of these analytics that you can use, other analytics that you can use within the platforms that are already built in. And then there's also tools, for example, that you can use to analyze how many bots an X account has, so you can pay for that and it analyzes it. You can also go to ChatGPT and say, analyze this profile. What does the engagement look like? It won't give you a super detailed answer, but you'll have a very good understanding. You can also use ChatGPT to analyze a person's or a company's digital footprint, and basically it will do it for you. It will be very accurate. So I think that between AI and the different metrics that are built into platforms and just the experience of knowing, I can look at a project's comments and I can tell you within 3 seconds if it's bots or if it's real, honestly. And so because I've been doing this for so long, and so you can, between my experience plus the tools like analytics and AI, it becomes extremely easy to understand what's happening with the project, what the community is. It probably takes me like a minute to understand if the project is alive or dead, basically.
Well, after lead generation, every project faces the problem of user retention. So what strategies of keeping users alive with your project using do you find most effective for retaining users in the most of crypto web projects?
Well, first of all, the very basic concept of does the business, let's not call it a project, let's just call it a business. That's what it is. Does the business provide a value that makes the clients come back to it? Okay, not a one-time value, not a two-time value, but they have to come back. So that's the first thing. That's inbuilt, that's a platform value. The second is you can use the tokens to give incentives. You can use the tokens to give passive income, potentially. You can use various DeFi partnerships. So if you give enough incentives, and if you create enough partnerships like co-staking, for example, somewhere, you will retain people. They'll be interested because there's a liquidity that they can get their hands on. And if you could have a good amount of utility for the token that makes the people hold on to the token, let's say hold the token and we'll give you another token that will be more incentives or something, or hold the token and you'll get dibs on some giveaway for a partner project, or hold this NFT and we'll give. So it's this kind of stuff. So I think it's like 2 or 3 different concepts. The first concept is having a sound business that actually people want to use. That's number one. Number two, having a utility in the token that encourages people to hold that token because it gives enough value that it's worth it for them. And number three, giving people enough incentives. And incentives is really what a lot of Web3 marketing is built on. You have to give them incentives, whether it's the Galaxy or Zeely or Queston or giveaways or whatever it is. That's how you attract your day traders and your airdrop hunters and maybe some of the lower rung community members. But those community members are what makes up a huge chunk of ultimately every project's community. So
this has been another great advice. So does your business provide value? It's extremely good advice to call you not project, just a business. Does a business provide value? Simply, clever, and Extremely understandable. I don't know if you deal with decentralized autonomous organization as a marketer in Web3, but most of DAOs struggle with active participation. It's not a secret. So if you would be able to give an advice for DAOs, what approaches have you seen work best to keep members of DAOs engaged and meaningfully, actively involved in DAO existence, voting, participation, and so on and so forth?
I think the only thing that long-term can ensure that the DAO survives is the performance of the token, personally. I think that's what it is. I think it's a common interest for a specific valuable asset to exist for a long time. I actually had my own DAO when I had my own project, Glitter Finance. I had the XGLI DAO based around the token. So I'm very familiar with all of this stuff. Again, my opinion, as a person who used to have a DAO, who created a DAO at one point, and who has worked in this for 6 years, only thing that you can do is to make sure that the token performs well, and that, as I described in the previous answer, that there's a reason to hold the token because it gives even more value. And so if you have those two components, then the DAO can survive over a long period of time. I think the reason we see a lot of DAOs fail is because, frankly, they're composed of smaller projects, and this ties into a different answer that I gave earlier. And smaller projects in a volatile financial environment will always at some point run out of capital. And if they're small and they don't have enough backing, they will not survive. It's not possible because the token requires maintenance, the marketing requires maintenance, digital footprint constantly needs to be worked on, and at the end of the day, it's just simple expenses, like if you're very pedantic about it and you kind of or practical about it and you just layer the expenses. Expense 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How is a small project going to survive? It's impossible in a bad economy where the VCs are no longer deploying because you don't really have the backers that a big institutional project has. You're done. So I think it's all the same. It's the same answer. And so again, token performance and the DAO will do well.
Absolutely. From the business viewpoint, every business project, and Web3 are not excluded, maybe can be seen as a long checklist of daily routine critical tasks, works, which are performed by team members, whether handled in-house or outsourced. And Web3, there are such audits, tokenomics, design, development, etc. So everybody understands what I'm talking about. In your consulting experience, when you deal as a marketer with a client, how often do you discover that founders or team members have missed, forgotten, overlooked key elements of another great jobs, which probably influence on the marketing side of the project? And if you see such a problem, what do you advise them?
I see it often, and most of the time I see it, especially when Web2 founders come over to Web3 thinking that there's easy money to raise here. I also see it very often when there's Web2 companies that come over, they don't understand how Web3 works. They think they know better because they've already built something in Web2. And ultimately, that's how you lose a lot of money in the business. And what I do about it, well, I try to be an advisor that is honest and give them the value that they're paying me for, which is, hey, dude, you got to fix this. This is going to be a problem. That's what I try to do. And then I try to see if the governing team, the leadership team listens to me. If they listen to me, that's amazing. But I've encountered many times Web2 TradFi teams that just don't listen. They don't get it. They just don't get it. They have a mindset. There's nothing you can do. You give them the best shot you do, and they don't follow it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation. It comes down to human nature and human error and ego. Like if the Web2 founder, or it could be maybe an inexperienced founder too, although I generally find that people that work in Web3 at least a year or two, they start to really understand this stuff, like you need to be able to bounce around in Web3, experience it, feel the culture, and you'll start to understand how things work. But again, there's sometimes founders that come over from Web2 and they want money quickly because they still think that it's 2017 or 2020. And so at that point, if they don't listen, then there's not much I can do, and it's just human nature.
Well, you've pointed again and again how short-termism, which I personally hate, works, how it looks like. So, and you've pointed on the very big problem. I even identified it, and you helped me to formulate it, formalize it. So, how a Web 2 mentality, a founder of Web 2 mentality works in Web 3. Probably they don't understand the principle and philosophy of Web3. This is probably the topic of another great conversation of another podcast, but will be in another story. So finally, David, is there anything important we haven't said before we must say now, finally, in the end of this episode about you marketing, Web3, philosophy, WowDuck, and so on and so forth? Call to action time.
Sure. I mean, something that I always like to say is a Web3 project is composed of 3 products: the platform with the revenue streams and the technology, the community, which is a separate product in itself, which has to be catered to and has to be marketed to some extent differently, and then the token, which must remain solvent and is basically a public fund, and you have to keep it in a good order in order to basically have a chance to have the project do well. And so really, if you look at it that way, everything becomes much clearer, and it becomes much easier to understand what steps to follow to have a healthy project. And then you also get a sense of the costs of what it all costs. In terms of WowDuck and Cicada, I would encourage everybody to go to cicada-mm.com and wowduck.com. Great organization created by OGs that have been in the space for a very long time. Cicada is an excellent liquidity provider, VC, and connector. And WowDuck, we have OGs working in marketing for many years in Web3, many projects, lots of different successes. So I would encourage anyone that has a need to come. We'll give you great, honest advice and help you grow. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Well, so this has been an extremely useful episode, I would say, from David Dobrovitzky, the CEO of WowDuck.com. Needless to say that you may find any links in the description of this video. That's it for today's episode of the Develop Podcast, where we explore the state of the art in Web3 practices and methods and try to understand the current stage of the evolution of the decentralized internet. I'm Agent Crypto MC from DAO Envelop. Until next episode, keep building, keep learning, and keep shaping the future of Web3. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers.
Blockchain. BLOCK chain. Digital money, smart contracts, NFT, IDO, decentralization, transparency. So many opportunities, but so many challenges. Some financial manipulators, by their actions, confuse blockchain solutions and block their development. The idea that the blockchain should bring copyright and royalties protection to the next level is quite old, but the realizations of these ideas are not perfect at all. There is another problem of determining the value of a particular cryptocurrency or NFT. These and other problems need to be solved. Fortunately, the blockchain infrastructure is evolving. My name is E, Mr. E, and I represent the Envelop project. Many things have already been invented in the blockchain today. Tokens, smart contracts, platforms for creating your own coins, NFTs, exchanges for buying, selling, and exchanging all these blockchain resources. Envelop is another step in the development of crypto technologies. The protocol that works with NFT and cryptocurrencies. The idea is simple but disruptive. Let's assume you have an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Using the Envelop protocol, you can wrap the original NFT accompanied with several tokens. Technically, you get a similar NFT, but what is the breakthrough here? Once wrapped, the token has a number of additional features that were not available before. The minimum cost appears. It is provided with coins wrapped together with NFT. An asset wrapped with Envelop has a number of properties that allow the original author to receive royalties from the resale of that asset. Various rules can be applied to the wrapped token. For example, a lock period for unwrapping. It secures the asset till the determined moment or safeguards it from speculation during the hype period. At the same time, wrapped tokens can be transferred and traded. These are just some of the scenarios for using Envelop. NFTs become more popular, and the tools provided by Envelope expand the opportunities of NFTs utilization. Wide application possibilities are achieved due to the fact that, in addition to the protocol, the project includes a number of subsystems. The protocol provides functions wrapping and unwrapping. Oracle Mechanics provides asset valuation using analytical algorithms. Index provides a summary assessment of several NFT assets with the common criteria. The project has its own token, which connects all elements of the system. Altogether, this is Envelope, a tool in the blockchain world for building modern and secure systems in various fields. Find more info about the project on the website. Envelope. Make your NFT valuable. Just practical, no hype.